he's the source of my life, and I give him credit for all, even during the hardships. And I think some of the worst things that I'm going through was coming up as a child. I felt very cheated. I felt it was unfair that I didn't have a mother. When everybody had a mother, when older people, grown-ups had mother, had their mother, and I didn't have mine, and it just didn't seem fair. But I have to accept it as that was God's plan for my life, and that because of that, it have helped me to be who I am.
What about the jobs that you've had in your life? Your jobs.
Okay, the jobs that I've had, I'm trying to think. I've had various jobs. I'm trying to think of my first job. So the first one I really remember, I had taken a class and for nurses assistants. This was back many years ago. And I took it at Slidell Memorial. And I passed the test, and I was accepted at Slidell for them, they was going to hire me. But when I went in for my physical, they said that my back wasn't, in other words, it wasn't strong, whatever. And they couldn't hire me because a nurse assistant had to do. And I was kind of disappointed. But maybe a few months later, my sister-in-law had to go to New Orleans. She went to Arshna over in New Orleans, not Arshna, then it was Methodist Hospital, but she went over there, and I just rode with her. And for whatever reason, my sister-in-law didn't get the job, and the interviewer looked at me and said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Well," I said, "I took training." I said, "But they told me they couldn't hire me." They said, "Why?" I said, "With my back." And so they said, would you be able to sign a waiver saying that if something happened to your back, you wouldn't sue the hospital, wouldn't you sue Methodist? And I said, "Sure." And I signed it, and I started working. So that was my first, I would say, And I worked over at Methodist for about 3 or 4 months. I was driving every day, and I enjoyed working with the patients, but I didn't enjoy it because sometimes I would have to work on Saturday, Sunday. My shift was 2:30 to 11, so the children would get in from school and whatever. So one time there was some meeting in Slidell on children, early childhood, and I went to this meeting, and there was a lady there that I met, and we talked. And then later I was at grocery shop, and the lady looked at me and recognized me and said, "Hey," said, "we're getting ready to open up Head Start in Slidell. After talking to you, I think you would do well." She said, "Have you worked?" I said, "No, I don't have any experience as working with children, just babysitting relatives." And she said, "Well, if you'd be interested," she took my name and she called me. They did training, and I was one of the staff members of the first Head Start. And I think this was in 1972. And that's how I got work, and I really enjoyed it. This way, I was able to send the children to school. I would be home when they get out of school. I was off on weekends, and I had the same holidays that they did. So I loved it. And since then, my biggest work that I enjoy is working in a learning environment, and I like it in the school system where I enjoy working with children.
So what's the best way to raise children?
Well, love, and to teach them to love God. You show them that you love and respect God. Teach them to treat others the way they want to be treated. Whenever you do something, would you want someone to do that to you? No, well then don't do it to them. And to love, but discipline is very important, to let them know that you love them, but there are certain things that are not acceptable. And so my children and I, I've always been, and I taught them they had duties around the house to do. My daughter had duties, the boys had their duties, and everybody had, and after they finished what they had to do, then they could go play or go do whatever. On Sundays, you had to go to church, and if you didn't feel too well, didn't feel like going to church, well, you couldn't play, you couldn't do nothing, you had to rest the rest of the day. So my children very seldom miss church on Sunday because they know that they couldn't do any fun things if they didn't feel like going to church.
How did you end up at Bayou Woods?
At Bayou Woods, I had a relative who was working for the school board, and we was talking one day, and so he said, "Burnetta, they're getting ready to hire tutors." Because I have an associate degree, but I didn't have a bachelor's. So with an associate degree, I was a teacher at Head Start. But I told him, I said, I can't teach in the public school. He said, no, they're getting ready to hire the tutors and they don't have to have a bachelor's degree. And why don't you check into it? So I checked into it. So I called the lady that interviewed me for the job was one of the teachers that I had when I was going to Southeastern. And when she said, oh, Burnetta, you would be great for this job. And at that time, like I said, in '85, I think it was like 8 or 9 schools in the parish that had tutors. They was called Chapter 1 schools. So what the tutor did, they helped the kindergarten, first graders, helped them if they had needed skill, help to build on certain skill, help them with word recognition, just basic. And what I would do is take the children in a small group, sometime one-on-one, help them on whatever skill they needed. If they needed math, if they needed reading or whatever. And I enjoyed that, and I did that I did that for 19 years, up until I retired. I did, well, no, when the tutor, they eliminated the tutors from the school, and then I worked, I think the last couple of years, I worked as the second person when I started the 4-year-old program in the public, or the 4-year-old program in the public school.
When did you meet Miss Margaret?
I met Miss